Well, we had a little respite, and we're ready to be nothing but positive, right? Well, you didn't come here for me to blow straight sunshine up your keisters, did you? That's not what we do here. We'll open and close with Saints talk and how Darren Rizzi has changed the mindset of the team. Is that enough to get the Saints their first winning streak of the season as they finish off a month at home? What about LSU? There's some sunshine. There's some pleasant talk. We know the fire's turned up to high on Brian Kelly's butt as they face a must-win at home against subpar Oklahoma. And Tulane is the only local team on a real roll. I'm not talking about dinner rolls. We'll have enough of those tomorrow. Can they provide the Thanksgiving dessert at home against Memphis on Thanksgiving? All this, and Gabe is here to help me take a look at the Thursday full slate in the NFL and offer his pick of the week. And guess what? We have a big-time Thanksgiving surprise for you, the Dattitude family, and it's all coming up next on, of course, the Dattitude podcast.
If you're looking for the latest scoop and in-depth interviews on the Saints, the NFL, the Pelicans, LSU, along with the best bets of the week, then lucky you. Along with high-powered, in-the-know guests who cover our teams, Jim Derry brings plenty of Dattitude. And he'll always tell you the way it is, or at least the way he thinks it is.
Where you at, New Orleans? And hello to my friends elsewhere, everywhere, out there who are already stuffed just thinking about Thanksgiving dinner. If all it took with thoughts, I wouldn't have eaten the past 2 weeks, but you know that ain't true. How about we fill you up with Dattitude, episode number 314, presented by Evangeline Securities for a Wednesday, November the 27th, 2024. I am your host, Jim Derry. This will be my 35th. I am so freaking old. 35th Thanksgiving in the New Orleans sports media scene. You know, I don't remember my first one way back in 1990, but I do remember many Thanksgivings on the sports and news copy desk. You know, believe it or not, I mean, you know, back then I was just working on the desk and I was editing copy, writing headlines, putting pages together, designing fronts. And then before I got back to writing, which is, you know, I think that's what I was meant to do, but it took a while. I didn't get back to writing till 2003, I think. So that means half my career, almost half my career, not quite, a little bit less than half, I spent on a copy desk. And then got back to writing, and then the last 4 or 5 years have been spent mostly in front of a camera. It's been a wild ride, man. But I don't remember those early Thanksgiving. The first couple Thanksgivings I don't remember. But let me tell you, back in the day when you work on a copy desk, you're like a family. It's like a lot of other jobs, I guess, but I don't know what's different about a newsroom because I wish I could explain it to you. A lot of the things that you see on TV and in movies about newsrooms are true. And we were one big family. I mean, you know, people from all over. That's the one thing about a newsroom. New Orleans is probably a little bit different because it's more New Orleanians than most newsrooms. If you go to Chicago, I'm sure there aren't it's not 50% Chicagoans. It's probably 25%, 30% Chicagoans and people from all over. New Orleans, at the Times-Picayune back in the day, I would be willing to bet it was probably 60% New Orleanians. Maybe even a little bit more than that. And so it's people like you. There are some people from I had good friends from Lafayette and people from Baton Rouge, and there were Louisianians, but there were people from all over. And we'd bring our Thanksgiving food. We'd have our Thanksgiving because you worked holidays, man. The paper did every day, man. The paper came out every day. So I miss. There's a lot of things I miss about those days. I certainly miss the people, and I think about that a lot on holidays. Last weekend, real quick. Did the Shaw football game. They advanced to the quarterfinals last week, second round game. And who was covering it for the Advocate? But an old friend of ours, Darrell Williams, who we spent a lot of time together on. He was one of us, man. And so he's semi-retired now. He does some things on the side for the Picayune. It was great to see him. Jim Rapier and I, it was like old times. So don't forget where you came from, man. Don't forget where you came from. That is the story of today. But anyway, yeah. Been in this business a long time. It just means that I'm old. Happy Thanksgiving to everyone out there in the Dattitude family. You know how to comment. You're already doing it. We're going to show some in just a minute. We ask you politely to subscribe if you haven't already done so to the Dattitude YouTube page. We're on live Monday through Friday, except for Tuesday. And of course, we're not going to be on tomorrow because it's Thanksgiving. But just about every Monday through Friday, except for Tuesday at 11 a.m. Central Time. Live, and you can always catch it after the fact. But subscribe to the YouTube page. In fact, we have a treat for those of you who have already subscribed to our YouTube page or subscribe today or tomorrow. I'm going to tell you in just a minute. But you can get in touch with me on X at Jim Derry Jr. or via email at jderry@theadvocate.com. Okay. A couple of comments before we get to the surprise. Good morning, Kyle Sherman. Welcome to the show. You're just the first one I saw. Rocky, I know you're always first. Good morning, Dattitude Nation. Happy Thanksgiving to everybody. Charles Mangus, happy Thanksgiving. Absolutely. Dylan Smith, happy Thanksgiving. Who Dat Nation and the Dattitude family. Rainy Cajun, happy Thanksgiving Eve to everyone. I was able to go on a Rainy Cajun's show yesterday. I don't think it's up yet, but he interviewed me yesterday, and that was fun. And I thank the offer and the invitation from Jeremy, the Rainy Cajun. And when that comes out, we'll give you a link to it and see what it's like for me to be a guest. Nick Morris, Uncle Big Nick, happy early Turkey Day from Destin, Florida. Ovide, good morning. Who dat? Gary, good morning. Go Greenies. We're going to talk about the Greenies this morning. My friend Jerry is here. Welcome. Happy Thanksgiving to you, bud. And to everyone out there. Charles Manga says, Saltgrass and Lake Charles had a kitchen fire, so he had to change his Thanksgiving meal. He's going to Landry's, the Golden Nugget. Well, I could think of worse places to go than Landry's, especially out in Lake Charles. Lois Tillman, good morning. Welcome to the Dattitude family. And we got a question in there. We're going to get to Saints talk in just a minute. Before we get to the gist of the show, you see what is on today's show. We're going to be talking Saints. We're going to open with Saints and end with Saints. That's how today's going to go. We'll be talking about Darren Rizzi. We're going to talk about the injury report. It's looking maybe better than it's looked in quite a while. I had to go and make sure. I had to triple take. It is the shortest injury report thus far I've seen in quite a while. We're going to get into that again. Start today's show with Darren Rizzi. We're going to end the show with Saints. In between, we're going to talk about Brian Kelly and LSU. We haven't done enough LSU this year. We certainly haven't done enough about Brian Kelly. We're going to get your comments on all that. And, of course, we have definitely not done enough on I got to work on getting John Summerall on the show. I've been given contacts to get him on the show. I'm going to work on that next week. Since the Wave they'll be getting ready for Army. So maybe it'll be the week after I'll try to get them in between the American Athletic Conference Championship and whatever bowl game they play on. But the question right now is, can Tulane keep rolling? They're a big favorite over Memphis. We'll get into that. They play tomorrow night, Thanksgiving night, and that will be on ESPN. Got to give it to the Wave, man. Look, I know that I've been on shows, and people take things you say the wrong way. Just because I think that LSU would beat Tulane, it doesn't mean I don't think Tulane is good. I mean, if you say somebody could beat someone else, then you said Tulane sucks. I never said Tulane stinks, okay? I never said, that's not what I said. I think they're a good team, but I think if they played in the SEC, they'd struggle a little bit. We'll get to all that. I don't want to get ahead of myself. Okay, here's the surprise. Are y'all ready for the surprise? Dattitude family, I want you to listen closely. Okay, we got rules for this surprise, okay? We're going to have our first ever, I think it is anyway. I think it is our first ever giveaway. The first time we've ever given anything away here on Dattitude. Now, I'm working to see that we change that, and I would like to give things away on a more consistent basis. But a great friend of the show, John Pace, who many of you have probably seen. If you're a regular to the show, you know the name John Pace, okay? John Pace who is a Saints season ticket holder but does not live here in New Orleans. I believe he lives in Denver or around Denver. I could be wrong, but I think, John, tell me if I'm wrong, okay? I know you don't live around here in New Orleans, okay? He's going to give his tickets away for the Rams game this Sunday. And he emailed me and he said the way he wants to do it is he wants to give it to a member of the Dattitude family, okay? Which I thought was just an incredible, outstanding gesture. So this is how we are going to do it. I want y'all to pay attention. You don't follow the rules, you're not going to be a part of the sweepstakes, quote unquote, sweepstakes. You'll have a good chance to win because I'm guessing there's only going to be somewhere between 10 and 30 entries. So you'll have a good chance to win. That is my guess, okay? So to win the Saints-Rams tickets, okay, how you would get the tickets is I would email you the tickets or John would email you the tickets, one of the two. And we'll announce the winner on Friday's show, okay? So there he is. He is watching this morning. You can show that, Gabe. Happy Thanksgiving to the Dattitude family. Well, John Patience has given us a great Thanksgiving gift. Okay. Saints-Rams tickets. If you're interested in the quote-unquote sweepstakes, we're going to give these 2 tickets to members of the Dattitude family. Okay. The rules are this. First off, you have to make a prediction. Don't do it here in the comment stream. You have to make a prediction on tomorrow's Lions-Bears game. And you have to be subscribed to the Dattitude YouTube page. If you haven't already subscribed, it's easy to find at Dattitude Pod on YouTube. Okay. Those are 1 and 2. And 3, you have to email me. You have to email me your predicted score of Lions Bears. Whoever is the closest predicting Lions Bears. You don't have to be watching live. You can be listening to this podcast after the fact. You have to send these in to me by the start of the game tomorrow. So tomorrow by 11:30 a.m. Central Time, I'm cutting it off. Okay? Email me, jderry, JDERRY, at theadvocate.com. You have to email me your predicted score of Bears-Lions, and you have to give me your email address to where you would want the tickets sent, and you have to tell me your YouTube username so I can find and confirm that you are a member of the Dattitude family and that you are subscribed to the Dattitude YouTube page. Okay? Got it? I'm going to repeat this at the end of the show, but again, got to be subscribed. You got to email me. Got to give me your prediction for Lions Bears. Those are the 3 rules. We'll say this again at the end of the show, but again, I want to say thank you to John Pace for providing us with a little present for the Dattitude family here on this Thanksgiving. All right, we're going to start off with Saints this morning. But before we get to the rest of the show, let me continue the story. We've got a very important story that doesn't have to do with Saints, LSU at Tulane. How about our friends at Evangeline Securities? You know by now they are a company that can help you decide if it's the right time to sell your family-run or privately held business. And just as importantly, they can figure out what your business is worth. Yep, next Thanksgiving, you can just have dinner in a hotel somewhere. There ain't no cleanup when you go to a hotel. Whether it be here in the French Quarter, which is pretty nice. I've done a couple of Thanksgivings in hotels here in the Quarter. It's been a little bit, but I have. It's pretty cool. I got to say, I actually felt like for a couple hours I was like somebody. That was a while ago, and I don't know. That's a whole different story. Anyway. Or it could be somewhere warm and tropical. It might have nothing to do with turkey or stuffing. I will say this, though. If you're not having stuffing, don't call me. Thanksgiving ain't Thanksgiving for people of my girth without stuffing. I digress. Again, whatever. Whether you love or hate stuffing, if you're thinking about the next stage of your life, you need to reach out to Evangeline's founding and managing partners, Nick Braden and Ron Hemel. They will maximize the value for your business, and they start by scheduling a complimentary valuation. They have offices on Poydras Street and in Lafayette. And although I'm fairly certain they'll be closed tomorrow, you can always find out more at www.evangelinesecurities.com. And we will tell you more about them later in the show. All right, again, you see what's coming up. UBN, why? You can win. You're not. You can't go. I don't know if you're going to be home Sunday to go. Charles Mangus got to have the green bean casserole. All right, me too. Stuffing and green bean casseroles is absolute must. All right, let's go. Let's get started with Saints, and we're going to open up talking about Rizzi, and you see the numbers here. I was kind of surprised the Saints were only 2.5-point favorites. Then I realized, well, they're only one game away from the Rams in the standings. I mean, if you're one of these dreamers, I know I've said, and Gabe's been saying it for like four or 5 weeks now, that it's 0.0. I still say it's realistically 0.0. However, I don't want to dampen your parade. We're going to be positive today. If you think the Saints have a realistic chance at the playoffs, then they absolutely have to win this game. Why? Because the Rams are one game ahead of them. So they're just one of the teams they're going to be in the running with for the wild card. Or I know y'all think that they can win the NFC South. I'm telling you they can't. They can't, okay? I know y'all keep thinking the Falcons going to Falcon. They'd have to Falcon so bad that, like, even for them, it'd be absurd. Jerry says cornbread dressing. Look, I'm a big fan of the cornbread dressing too. Anything like cornbread dressing, stuffing, yeah, green bean casserole, absolutely. Also, you're going to see that I randomly stop talking. I mean, my ADHD is gonna really kick in this morning. I'll randomly just go off on a tangent about food this morning. Just saying. John Pace says the Saints have a slim chance. Talk to me in 2 weeks if we're still winning. You could talk to me. If they win 2 more, I'm still going to say 0.0 realistically. Just saying. I'm just letting you know. Not that I'm trying to be negative Nelly, Derry Downer. Rocky says, oyster dressing. Oh, yeah. Bring me the oyster dressing. I don't know if we're having that tomorrow or not. So anyway, look, the Saints are going to do this thing. There's no question they have to beat the Rams. After the Rams, they go to the Giants. Give them a little Tommy Cutlets action. I believe after the Giants, is that the Commanders at home? I think that's next. They ain't beating the Commanders. Sorry. I'd be shocked if they beat the Commanders. It just ain't happening. Anyway, so 2.5-point. Imagine though if they do win the next 2 games, how different things would be around here. 6 and 7. I don't know. Rainy Cajun says food deprivation causes podcast ADHD. It doesn't take much for podcast ADHD to settle in here. If you've been watching that, you know that by now. What do you think about Darren Rizzi, though? Let's get realistic. And that obviously was the lead topic on the front page this morning. And I got to say this, and the reason why I was trying to decide what to put on the front this morning, what was going to be the lead topic. And I think I've been a little harsh on Rizzi. I went on a show yesterday. We recorded inside New Orleans with Eric Asher yesterday. Now, I'm not able to go on the show as much as I would like to, the TV show, because he normally records on a Wednesday, and I'm here with you on a Wednesday. So with a chance to go on, I told him a week or 2 ago that I would do it this week. So one of the topics came up in Rizzi, and I started just talking about all the things that I've been talking about. And I just think that while I am a fan of what Darren Rizzi has done, my explanation for why I don't think he is the future of this franchise is because I think this team needs to just rip the Band-Aid off. They need to get everything out of the building that they can. I mean, you can't completely strip yourself from Sean Payton and Dennis Allen, but I think you need to get as close as possible, right? So in my opinion, to get away from what you have now and start over, quote unquote, again, you can't get rid of all 52 players, nor am I suggesting that you should. I mean, you're going to keep Taysom Hill, although he's only going to, I mean, realistically, he's only got a couple years left. I know he looks incredible for a 34-year-old, but he's 34. I mean, how much longer can he go at that pace? I don't know. Alvin Kamara, 2-year extension after this year. I can't imagine he goes much past that. Derek Carr, I know a lot of you want Derek Carr going anyway, but realistically, next year, potentially the year after, and that's it. I can't see Derek Carr sticking around. Again, I know a lot of you are thrilled about this. Now, some of the younger players that probably will make it through a complete rebuild would be guys like Fuaga. Eric McCoy would probably make it through. I'm trying to think of who else that might make it through, really. I mean, Chris Olave, assuming he's still going to play. Rashid Shaheed when he comes back. Rob Fanguy. Rizzi won 2 winnable games he should have won. That doesn't mean he earned a promotion. We shouldn't even be talking about this for another 3 weeks. Well, I think you have to talk about it. And the reason why I think you have to talk about it, and the reason why it's a topic of today's show, Rob, is because I think fans want to talk about it. I understand what you're saying, and I don't disagree with anything you've said, except for the last part about not talking about it. Kool-Aid stays, Philip Green says, for sure. And Adebo's going to stay when he gets healthy. There are probably 10. I mean, I asked the question, I think the over-under, what is the over-under on current players who are still here to start the 2027 season? And I put it at 9.5. And I said I would probably take the over, but only slightly. I mean, I'm talking like, I think it's 10 or 11, but I think 9.5 is the right number, right? Gabe says he'd take the on. I mean, it wouldn't surprise me if it was 9. Wouldn't surprise me if it was 8. I think it's somewhere between 8 and 12. Okay. Realistically, if you have more than 12 current Saints, then you're still living the same nightmare. Because I know the last 2 weeks before the bye week were fun, but in the grand scheme of things, this season's a nightmare. I know Rizzi's a fun story. John Pace says coach enthusiasm and ability to motivate is critical, but it only takes you so far. You've got to be able to scout your opponents, prepare your team, and be tactically sound on game day. I agree. Again, I like to compare what I've seen from Rizzi and his style. And again, it's hard to find out what his style really is because it's only been 2 games. They were at home. One was against an okay opponent in Atlanta who's going to win the division, but the Saints were living off of motivation and change and steam and whatever. Then they played the lowly Browns, who ended up beating the Steelers. So let's cool our jets a little bit. That being said, though, if I had to compare him to someone I think that fits in the mold of NFL coaches today, I'd compare him to Dan Campbell. And a lot of you out there might say, what? Dan Campbell, Lions are the best team in the NFL. First of all, I don't think the Lions are the best team in the NFL. Second of all, they're not even close to the best coached team in the NFL. But that's who I would compare him to because I think that Dan Campbell is maybe the best motivator in the NFL, him and potentially John Harbaugh, somebody like that. Maybe a Mike Tomlin, who's a great motivator and a fantastic coach. But that's the ilk. Dan Campbell is a fantastic motivator, but as far as game day coach, he lacks in a lot of things to me. So can the Saints work off of that model? If you're even thinking about keeping a guy like Rizzi going, now again, he's got a long way to go before he's even really considered. But we've told you before, this team is loyal to a fault. I mean, to a fault, which is why Rizzi has a real chance to win this job. Jeff Haspel, we should look to the 2-3 year rebuild and infuse the lines with youth like Flores, Aaron Glenn, and Vrabel as your top 3. I absolutely agree with the infuse the lines with youth. And everything starts with the youth part of this, okay? And I mean youth everywhere. But they also need to get into the trenches on both sides of the football, the offensive line, the defensive line. You can't fix anything with this team, or any team for that matter, unless you have a solid offensive line and defensive line. As good and as fun as the Lions have been, and I'll use them again for a model, what have the Lions been best at? It's not Jared Goff. And although their running back tandem is one of the best in the league, it's not even those guys. It's up front. They have what I think is the best offensive line in football. And even though Aiden Hutchinson is hurt and not there right now, I still think they have a really solid defensive line. And if you look at not every great team right now, but if you look at most of the great teams, they have that in common. Solid, if not great offensive lines, solid, if not great defensive lines. The Saints aren't good either side there. They probably have a better defensive line than they have an offensive line, but that ain't saying much. You got to go there first. You can hate Derek Carr, and I know the Derek Carr haters have been pretty silent the last couple of weeks. I don't know where Randall is today. Randall must be he must be working. Got to go in the trenches. It's where it starts. Everything in the trenches. Kyle Sherman. Absolutely. I know you're talking about head coaching candidates, and I'm going to tell you why I am not a fan of Flores and Aaron Glenn for a couple reasons. I'm not saying I'm not a fan. That's the wrong way to put it. I wouldn't mind any of those three that you have. If I had to pick one of those three, I would probably pick Mike Vrabel because I think he's of the ilk where he's kind of a player's coach. He's been a player fairly recently. He's still young enough. He's a retread, but he's a successful retread. Brian Flores, I'm not sure his we're going to do it this way approach works as well today as it might have worked. I think Brian Flores' style 20 years ago would have been phenomenal. I'm not sure his style works as well today. Maybe. I'm not completely opposed. Rob says, I think we're going to see some surprises with head coaches. Maybe 8 to 10 jobs open up by some speculation. The quote-unquote good candidates may not be that deep. I don't disagree that there aren't a ton of good candidates, but what exactly makes a quote-unquote good candidate? I mean, we know that Ben Johnson is going to be highly sought after, and he's going to be the number one candidate for anyone. I would assume that he's actually going to go this year. He didn't go last year because he didn't get the offer that he wanted. Maybe it wasn't the right team. Maybe he just didn't want to go. Maybe whatever. Maybe he's waiting for a certain job to open up. I don't know. Maybe he goes to the Giants. Gabe's flying. There's a lot of teams that fly. I don't know which team flying are you talking about? The Eagles, Nick Sirianni's not leaving. Come on, man. Nick Sirianni's a bum, but he ain't leaving. John Pace says Mike Vrabel's better than Ben Johnson. Same thing getting Ben Johnson anyway. Okay, he just doesn't. Ben Johnson doesn't. He's not going to come here. Okay, he's going to have his pick of the litter. Okay, and if you're going to have your pick of the litter, no offense, but you ain't picking the Saints for multiple reasons. Not just because the Saints have so much work to do to get back personnel-wise to where they were even 4 years ago. And they got a lot of work to do to get back to where they were 4 years ago. But the Saints probably aren't going to offer the same amount of money that a Giants team is going to offer or someone of that ilk. I'm not saying he wants to go there either because that's a mess. And who would want to go to the Giants? I mean, I actually think there's another name for you, Brian Daboll. I mean, would you be interested in him if he becomes available? I mean, he doesn't fit the mold of he's a retread and not a successful one, although he had one successful year. I don't know. So there's going to be a lot of surprising names that I think they're going to be out there. I know there'll be people that will be saying Mike McCarthy. John, you say Brian Daboll, that's not how you spell, but that's okay. Well, no thanks. But why? Why? I think Brian Daboll is actually an excellent coach. Okay. Again, he doesn't fit my mold, so I don't know that he would be I don't think he would ever be number one on my list. But you got to figure out who's going to be available. I mean, Darren Rizzi is honestly, I mean, he doesn't fit the mold of, he certainly doesn't fit the mold of, I don't want anybody that's ever had anything to do with the Saints. He can't fit in that mold. And another thing that scares me about Rizzi is, and I said this on the show that I was on yesterday, Inside New Orleans, I brought this up many times before in the ilk of Rizzi, when you're talking about a Darren Rizzi. And I brought this up on this show before, and I've given you the receipts. I'm telling you why I don't think Rizzi would work. Because there hasn't been a single, not a single interim coach who's gotten the job and then kept the job into at least the next year who has been worth a damn. Not a single one. Go ahead and find one. You can't. Don't go find one because you're wasting your time, and I don't want you to waste your time. It's just you can't find one. So that's what goes. Why would Rizzi be Denny? It goes back to what I told y'all. And God, I can't believe I'm bringing this up again. I don't want anyone to get feisty. But it's the same reason why I told you I didn't think that Spencer Rattler could be successful. Why? Because other than Brock Purdy, there is no, at the time, when we started this season, there was no starting quarterback in the NFL, except I think Gardner Minshew, I think also was. So he and Gardner Minshew is not any good. He's now out for the season. So you can count him if you want. But Brock Purdy and Gardner Minshew going into this season were the only two quarterbacks who were drafted after the 4th round. The Saints are not smarter than a 5th grader. That's why, and it's the same thing. It's a different subject, but it's the same thing. If there has been no interim coach that has been successful to stay with his team this century, why would there be one now with Rizzi? Charles Manga says there isn't one, but he might break the mold just saying no analytics. Whatever. That's not an analytic. That's a trend. Two completely different things. I know you're trying to be funny. I get what you're trying to do there. That's not an analytic. That's a fact. That's a fact. Go back and look. And I didn't even go past 2000. There may not have been one since the 80s, or who knows? I'd have to go digging deep further. In fact, maybe I'll make that a project of mine over the weekend if I have time, which I never do. But I would love to know who's the last interim coach that was worth a damn, because there hasn't been one since 2000, and the Saints aren't smarter than a 5th grader. And Darren Rizzi, to me, is part of all that. Just saying. So that doesn't mean that I hope I don't. Again, I'll go into this week, and I still see numbnuts typing this out there. It's not nearly as much because it's been a different team. Social media is just stupid. Okay. I mean, stupid. I'm on it because I have to be on it, but let's just be honest. Social media, people, the vast majority of people, and I'm not exaggerating it. The vast majority of people who type into social media are morons. I still see people typing, why should anyone root for the Saints to win? I mean, are we really still doing this? Are we really still talking? I hope they lose out. Are you really still hoping they lose out? Are you really that dumb? You're not really that dumb, are you? First of all, they've ruined it now anyway. They're going to win a bare minimum. They're going to win 2 more games. So there'll be 6 wins, which eliminates them from, I don't know, what is that, Gabe? Top 8. You're eliminated from the top 8. So you're a moron. If you're still rooting for them to lose, you done missed the boat. You need to go do something else with your time. Stop watching sports, not just football. Adam Varner, people still want Michael Thomas. There are still people out there that want Michael Thomas. It's not just X/Twitter, Rainey. It's Facebook, it's Instagram, it's TikTok, it's all of them. I don't use Snapchat, but I know Snapchat too because my 13-year-old daughter, and look, I can't be strict, old ass, get off my lawn, dad, okay? I hate that she uses Snapchat, but it's like every 5 seconds they gotta like, hey, here I am sitting in the car. I mean, this is the kind of, but she's 13, okay? Can adults act like they're adults? I don't know. Exactly, John Pace. Go feed the pigeons. you still see some. The Saints aren't going to lose enough games for it to matter anyway. But what is the ceiling for this team? We're rooting for this team to win. What is the ceiling for this team going forward? I say it's still 7 wins. I don't see them win, but still, if they go 7-10, I mean, it makes me a little nervous. Okay, again, I'm not going to root for the team to lose. I want them to win every game. If it means they're bringing Rizzi back, and which scares the hell out of me, then they're bringing Rizzi back. I hope they go 10-7. They're not going to do it, but I hope they do it. But if they go 7-10, then that means that Rizzi is 5-3 down the stretch. I don't know. He's absolutely going to be considered if they go 7-10. Good morning, Douglas Thornton. A couple of you members of the Dattitude family, we have our biggest crowd of the morning so far. So I'm going to tell you real quick, because we're going to get Gabe in a minute, but real quick, the surprise. We had a surprise for members of the Dattitude family. Everyone this morning, real quick. John Pace, who is a member of the Dattitude family, he has offered his Saints-Rams tickets to he said I could give them to whoever I wanted in the Dattitude family. Got 2 tickets, Saints-Rams game. They're free. We're doing a giveaway. Okay, this is how you can get your tickets free. And you got to want to go. Don't get into the thing if you're not going to go. Dylan, that's awesome. John Pace, happy Thanksgiving to him and his family. Absolutely. Okay. Don't enter the contest if you don't want to go. Okay. You got to use them. All right. So that's rule number 1. Rule number 2 is you got to make a prediction. Lions versus Bears tomorrow. Okay. Not here, not in the comments. Okay. You got to make a prediction. Lions, Bears. You got to email it to me, jderry@theadvocate.com. JDERRY @theadvocate.com. Or if you want, you can find me on Twitter and DM me. That would be okay too. Those are the 2 things, 2 big rules. The third big rule is you have to send me your username on YouTube because you have to be a subscriber. Someone asked, what's the tiebreaker? That's a good question. I don't know. Corey Terrio and the sweepstakes tickets. What if 2 people pick the same score and it's the closest? What will be the tiebreaker? I don't know, Gabe. What's a good tiebreaker? Never thought about that. The person who sends it to me first. There's your tiebreaker. Whoever sends it to me first is the tiebreaker. Or I could spin a wheel. Gabe says 6 wins currently gets pick 18? Really? Oh, that's because 6 wins right now means that you're 6-5. Okay, I get it. All right. They currently have the 9th pick. I think they'll probably finish somewhere around there. Rocky says another person gets on the show if it's a tie. We'll see. I'm going to have another person on we got ideas on how to get more Dattitude family members on the show. We're going to do this in the near future, I promise. So anyway, there you go. If you want to be part of the contest, send it in. Your predicted score, Lions Bears game tomorrow, which means that you got to have it in by 11:30 tomorrow morning. So that way, if you're listening after the fact, you don't have to be watching live. You don't have to be listening live, but you have to be subscribed to the Dattitude YouTube page, and you have to email me at jderry@theadvocate.com or DM me at Jim Derry Jr. on X. Either one of those is acceptable. And you can win the tickets. Again, thanks to John Pace for providing the Saints-Rams tickets. We truly appreciate it. Okay, as I said before, we're going to start the show and end the show with Saints. But there are other things that I want to talk about this morning, including LSU and Brian Kelly, Tulane, and how they're doing. We want to give you our thoughts on this weekend's games. Well, I mean, LSU's this week, and they play on Saturday. Tulane plays Memphis on Thursday. This is the last week of the regular season for college football. How sad is that? That is one thing. And look, I'm not the biggest college football fan in the world. I'm not going to lie to you. I much prefer NFL over college football. Always have, always will. Although I definitely like the fact that college football has gone to the 12-team playoff, and I think one day it's going to be 16, and that will make me happy because I think they should. But that being said, that's what I think about as we get closer to Thanksgiving. And the older you get, you people who are in my age range, the Gabe Hendersons of the world don't quite get this yet. Okay. When you get to and they always say, I used to say, shut up, old man. Because I used to say this to people. People would tell you, oh, life goes so fast the older you get. I mean, get out of here. Shut up. Life doesn't go any faster when you get older. Well, guess what? The old man was right. Because the older I get, it is crazy how fast life is going. And Charles Manga says it flew by. It always flies by. You know, again, most of you know that I'm a play-by-play guy on the side, and Friday Night Football, love it. But I've only got 2 of these left, tomorrow night and next week. If the local team that we do on a regular basis, my alma mater, Archbishop Shaw High School, if they make the state championship, potentially, maybe we'll do a radio broadcast of the championship. But really, in realistic terms, I have 2 games left. It seems like and I'm not kidding. I'm not just saying it seems like the season just started. But it seems like the season just started. Douglas, I did not mention the Bayou Classic, but I should have. Grambling and Southern. But Douglas, I will say this. The best part of the Bayou Classic is the Battle of the Bands. Sorry. I'm biased because I'm a former band member, and I also have a very good friend who was in the Southern band. And so I think the best part of Grambling Southern is the Battle of the Bands. So that it is also this weekend. We know how big of a boom that is for the city of New Orleans every year, bringing in people from all over Bayou Classic. Kyle, you're right. 1 year when you're 5 years old is 20% of your life. 1 year when you're 50 is 2% of your life. Keeps getting faster. I guess, but seriously, I bring this up. Douglas agrees with me. Battle of the Bands. Man, if you haven't seen the Battle of the Bands by Classic, you got to do that. But it's true, man. So anyway, this is quarterfinals week in high school football here in Louisiana. Next week, semifinals week, and that's it. And I've already started basketball. I've done 5 prep basketball games already, and I got one this afternoon. In fact, when I get off the show, I got post-production, and I got to go do a game this afternoon at St. Paul's. Charles says, so after you're 60, it drops to 1%. Snap. I don't know. I'm not there yet. Getting kind of close, though. Barry Ulay, absolutely. Go Shaw Eagles. How about the Chalmette Owls? We'll talk. Maybe I'll touch on the Chalmette Owls before we get off the air today. Or maybe I'll touch on them Friday. Maybe we'll talk a little bit of prep football on Friday. We'll see. As we get into the quarterfinals. I absolutely want to have a prep guest. We'll see how that goes. Franklinton Demons, by the way. One of my best friends on the planet, Nick Saltamaggio, head football coach at Franklinton High, is the number 1 seed in Division II non-select. They are playing, I believe, Lakeshore, which is my son's alma mater, and down the street from where I live. Well, not down the street, but close enough. Anyway, we did their game earlier, their regular season game. Franklinton won last minute and a half, I believe, with a touchdown, 35-28. We'll see what happens this week. That's exciting. All right, Oklahoma, LSU, and it's time to bring in Gabe Henderson. And I do want to talk a little bit, and I think Gabe and I are on the same. I got some comments, Gabe. Some people who I think most of them were amused at our. They think, what's up with you and Gabe going at it? I'm like, it was like 5 minutes of whatever, and then it's nothing. So for all of you wondering out there, Gabe and I don't harbor ill will towards one another because we don't agree. It's the same as if we were sitting in a bar drinking a beer and started talking about something and disagreeing. You're like, whatever, moron. No, you're a moron, blah, blah, blah. There you go. And we move on, right?
No one should actually get angry at people over sports takes.
Sports opinions.
Yeah. I mean, you can get angry at the take, but if you actually take that anger and carry it over into your personal and social life, you
got problems.
Yeah.
Absolutely. All right, let's start with LSU. I do want to get your thoughts on Brian Kelly. Now, look, they broke the schneid last week, but look, things happen, in my opinion. I know people are all over Brian Kelly. It's not what LSU fans are used to, and I understand where they're coming from. I'm not saying they're silly for thinking what they're saying, but they got to remember where this team came from. Okay, is a 3-game losing streak at LSU acceptable? No, but it also doesn't mean that you fire the coach because you have a 3-game losing streak. Don't be one of those fans. Whereas if you go through a mini slump in a 3rd season, now if this happens again next year, then I'll be more receptive to that kind of talk. But I mean, you're talking about a 3rd season to where I think he's already over accomplished, I guess, where I thought maybe this team would be by now.
Why is this not what LSU is used to?
Well, I guess they should be.
That's my question. Everyone's like, oh, this is LSU. Point. You have to be held to a higher standard. This is what every coach has done.
That's true.
LSU's lost 4 or more games 6 times in the last 10 years.
You got a point. But that's unacceptable, Gabe Henderson. So let's just...
once again, not everyone can be Nick Saban.
No, and that kind of goes to my whole social media theory. And where everyone... maybe this was their reaction before, but we never noticed it as much because... Mm-hmm. And I know for your generation, you've basically grown up with social media, okay? For me, it was you never really knew what someone's opinion was until you gave them a platform to just speak out into the metaverse. And I mean that both literally and figuratively. You speak out in the metaverse and say whatever you think, and you sound dumb, okay? I mean, why is the first reaction to you had a little rough patch, so fire the coach? Everyone seems to want to do that no matter what. And it's not just LSU. I've noticed it's everybody. Fire the coach. You lost 3 in a row.
Yeah, I don't get it. I'm one of the Brian Kelly defenders, I guess.
You and me
so
both.
I don't really understand it.
I just think who else do you want?
Well, so here's the thing. Not only that. Here's the thing. Both things can be true. These aren't mutually exclusive.
By the way, the numbers went down. Started talking about
Brian Kelly.
Probably the numbers went down.
Brian Kelly has been outcoached multiple times this year. He's not had this team prepared for every game this year.
Absolutely right.
But that does not mean he should be fired.
100%.
You can admit that. But I mean, hell, look at Ole Miss. Do you want me to stop talking for a second so you can take your Lane Kiffin victory?
Let me just say, thanks for the setup there. But anybody who thinks Lane Kiffin is worth a damn, they need to go not just stuff the turkey, they can go dive into a turkey because you are a turkey. As they used to say back when I was growing up, a jive turkey, because that's what you are. You're a jive turkey if you think Lane Kiffin is any good. By the way, Charles Mangus asked the question, is Oklahoma favorite? No. If you don't understand, and it's okay, I'm not being funny at all. If you don't understand what these numbers mean, if it's plus, it means you're an underdog. It means you're getting 6 points. So LSU is a 6-point favorite. If it's minus, it means you're a favorite. It means you're the Rams are a 2.5-point favorite over the Saints. So if you don't understand what these numbers mean, and I know a lot of you don't bet, so you don't know what they mean. Plus means you're a favorite. Underdog. Minus means you're a favorite. So Kyle, what were you saying there? He gets another reload year. D will be better under Blake Baker. No question about it. Start over with the OC. I couldn't agree more.
Yeah, start over with a new OC. I saw someone mention it earlier. LSU lost Bryce Underwood, and that was Joe Sloan's baby. And now that he's not going to play for LSU, there's no reason to keep Joe Sloan around. Yeah. Nor do I think they will. I think he's gone. I think he's been in over his head all season long. Nothing against him. I'm sure he's a good guy. I think he's way too in over his head right now.
And the last piece on that, also saw some fans unrealistically saying, well, Brian Kelly lost Underwood. I'm like,
can Kelly I speak on that for a second?
You know what he lost to? He lost to $12 million.
Can I? $12.5 million. $12.5 million. And a marketing deal with the Barstool.
But yes, you can speak on it.
I think the Bryce Underwood saga, everyone spins it as a negative for Brian Kelly. Can we talk about how impressive it was that LSU held on to him for this long?
Yeah.
I believe, don't quote me on this. I believe the LSU NIL package for Underwood was $1.5 million.
No.
So they took a kid who plays football, grew up 20 minutes from the big house, offered him $1.5 million, which is a hell of a lot of money to play football. And I actually like that they're not paying $12 million for a player.
I agree wholeheartedly.
But they took a guy, they offered him significantly less than the school right down the road. They kept him committed. Michigan took everything it had and threw it at they basically kept running up the offers.
To win that
they
fight.
Kept running up the offers until he could not say no. An offer he couldn't refuse. I mean,
they would determine to win.
And a lot of LSU fans want to get really upset with Underwood. You will never, you can quote me on this, I will never begrudge a high school kid for a college decision. Never. Not once. I don't care if he flips from LSU to Alabama. I do not care. That is their decision. Look, Bryce Underwood just made generational wealth. $12.5 million is a hell of a lot of money.
And look, I'm going to tell you, Gabe, I used to feel differently about this when I was young and stupid, about all these things, and players should get paid and all blah. I've completely flipped on this. And I don't know if it's the anti get off my lawn, because I try not to be that kind of person, but change has always been tough, especially the older you get. That's another thing you learn as you get older. The older you get, the less you want to change. But I have completely flipped my thoughts on this. I think players should get whatever they can possibly get. I mean,
absolutely.
And look, it's not their fault that the NCAA was short-sighted to the point to where, had they seen this coming, they could have nipped this all in the bud 30, 40 years ago and say, we're going to pay players X amount of dollars. And this NIL thing would have never come into play.
Well, I want to touch on what Kyle
says. Dark money, NIL is dark money arms race. We come back to that real quick, but my point on this is this: again, had the NCAA decided it would have been okay to pay players, there would have never been a lawsuit, which opened up this entire NIL thing, and the NCAA threw up their hands because they knew they were going to lose this maybe $1 billion lawsuit. Okay, they knew they were going to lose, so they threw up their hands and say, we give up, go ahead and do whatever you want. But it wouldn't have been a go ahead and do whatever you want, and Nick Saban wouldn't have been as aggravated, and the likes of Nick Saban quit because of this. He didn't want to be a part of this anymore because you can't control anything with NIL, and I just think it's the NCAA's fault as a whole that we're here where we are.
Yeah, well, that's what I wanted to touch on, is the fact that I'm all for players absolutely milking every cent that they can and getting what they deserve. 100%. I do not hold it against Bryce Underwood that he got $12.5 million. I commend him for that, because people in the comments are saying, what if he doesn't work out? What if he doesn't? He's still secured $12.5 million to go and get a college degree. That's awesome for him. And that's before he goes to the NFL potentially, where he will also make generational wealth. But NIL needs to be regulated in a certain sense, or we are not going to have these group of 5 teams competing, because they're already at a disadvantage. Let's not try and pretend something it's not.
No, I absolutely agree.
The power conference schools have a big advantage, but the lawlessness of NIL right now gives them an even bigger advantage. Because look at what happened with Michigan. They got most of the $12.5 million came from the wife of the CEO of Oracle being a Michigan fan. And she said, hey, honey, I would like X amount of money to make my football team better. And he's worth, I think, something like $231 billion. So that's chump change to him. So, I mean, you start getting these players involved, and it's lawless. Well, and I think it should be regulated in some sense.
Well, I agree, but and maybe they will at some point. We'll see. But there's a couple points I want to touch on, because I do want to get to the games themselves.
Yeah, of course.
We're running long. But, Charles, I used to say that he gets free tuition, and I understand your point. However, here's another thing that what I don't think enough people get. Do you realize how much money schools make off their teams' football programs? Okay.
Yep.
And for a star of a team, take Jaden Daniels, for instance. How much money do you think Jaden Daniels, the likeness of Jaden Daniels, brought to LSU in the grand scheme of things? LSU won the Heisman Trophy because of Jaden Daniels. How much money do you think Joe Burrow brought in to the LSU franchise? And so, real quick, so that's why I think that you can't think the same way anymore. And I agree with Douglas. I mean, they should get what they can, because what happens if a kid gets injured permanently while playing? He prays they don't, as do I. But think about it, and it's true. If Bryce Underwood goes and plays for Michigan and gets his $12 million, and you're like, that's ridiculous. And he breaks his leg in 3 spots in the 3rd game, and the doctors tell him, we don't think you should ever play football again. What does he get for that? You're talking about a guy who, I mean, I guess he could take out an insurance policy, but he's helping bring money into Michigan or wherever he plays. And I just think that it's, look, if they want to pay him, let them pay him.
Well, I implore anyone to, this stuff is public record, especially with LSU, seeing as they're a state school. You can go and you can look at the financials of all of the programs, and LSU is an exception because there are multiple sports at LSU that make money, but most sports don't
Women's
actually
basketball.
make the school money. So you can go look at those financials. And one thing before we move on, because I know we're running long, I just wanted to touch on this. Charles says, don't need $12 million to play college. Most NFL players get that to play in the NFL. Yeah, but Charles, here's the thing. If you're working a job and you excel at it, you are one of the most sought after people. What would you do if companies told you, well, you get paid enough to get by in life,
right,
and that's all that you deserve?
I mean, then you're probably going to go look for another place to go.
Exactly. Why would you not take more money? I mean, would you rather the schools pocket this money and do whatever they want with it, or would you rather the individuals who are the ones working hard?
We're just living in a different world today. It's a fact. We live in a different world today. This isn't 1985 anymore. It just isn't. And so, I mean, you got to be able to compete. And Barry says these NIL contracts cost the universities nothing. Exactly. I mean, this money's not coming from them. They're coming from sponsorships, which in the grand scheme of things is coming from alums. Okay, so Joe Alum, who owns the Joe Alum car dealership and has millions and millions and millions of dollars, says, I want my former school to be really good in football, and I'm willing to give you X millions of dollars. That's where that money comes from. Okay, so it's not coming from taxpayers. So if you're worried about LSU and they get state funding and you're worried about it, it's not coming out of your pocket. It just isn't. So I don't know that there's any way you can't really argue it. I mean, in my opinion, and I get for the love of the game. And look, I have a really close friend of mine who's he's 73 years old, and he's a lawyer, and he has told me for years before it got to this point that he thought that NIL was going to ruin college football. And I told him I disagreed. And guess what? I actually think you may hate NIL and the thought of NIL, but I think college football is probably in a better state today. Don't get me wrong. There are lots of things that could be done, and I think there are a lot of things that are unfair, and I think it sucks that Tulane doesn't have a realistic chance to be in the playoff, that they're only going to take one, and I think there's things you can do. But in the grand scheme of things, I think college football is a better place today than it's been in a very long time. So that's my opinion.
No, they're not, Kyle, because sports have always been people's main focus. Sports have always brought in the most money, the most donations. People always go crazy about sports, and that's just the way it is.
It's not only that, Kyle. I think another thing is just because you're saying I'm going to put up this money for the NIL, that doesn't mean that Joe Alum car dealership owner was given the university money before. And if he was, he's probably on a regular schedule to continue to give him the same amount of money. So
if anything, this helps the other aspects of the school, because the school no longer has to worry about compensating these players.
True. All right, let's move on to the actual games. Okay.
Yep.
And LSU. Okay. There's a couple things I like on here. And I'm going to start. Let's start with Tulane since they play tomorrow. Okay. I have been kind of back in Tulane, and you have too, as we go along. But I think in this case, looking at Memphis, I think Memphis is different than some of the other teams that Tulane playing. And I know that Tulane waxed the floor with Navy, but Navy was kind of on a downside. To me, Memphis is playing pretty good football right now. They're 9-2. You look at their schedule, it's not tough at all. They did beat Florida State, but so did a lot of other teams. But I think Memphis's running game could pose a problem for Tulane. I think Tulane will win the game, but I think that 13.5 points is way too many. For the first time in maybe 4 or 5 weeks, I'm actually taking the other side. I'm not sure I'm going to bet it, but I like Memphis plus 13.5 here.
I'm not touching this spread. I think it could go either way. Memphis has a history of mucking up games. I think they could make it close. I also think Tulane could blow them out of the water. I mean, it really just depends. The thing about Memphis, you mentioned their running game. Their rush defense is actually fantastic.
I think it's third in the AAC.
18th in the country as well.
Okay, so they're third in the AAC,
Yep.
18th. And so if anybody can slow down Mekhi Hughes, it could be Memphis. And I guess that's also a reason to like the under. And I think that, and look, Tulane has been getting high overs because they've been scoring a lot of points, but really Tulane hasn't been allowing all that many points. So in the grand scheme of things, I know they allowed a lot of points in North Texas. What was that, 3 or 4 weeks ago? I kind of like the under here as well.
Yeah, the thing, if I'm playing this game, I'm playing the player props. And that's I wrote a piece on that this week.
That's not legal in Texas.
No, it's not. I'm not playing anything technically, but if I were, I'd play the player props. I like Mekhi Hughes' under on rushing yards. Yeah. I think his over under set at 121.5 at DraftKings.
Do you drive to Lake Charles to make bets?
Not Lake Charles.
Okay.
I drive to. There's So you
don't have to go that far.
Little tip for anyone in Texas. The Louisiana rest stop, about a mile in, the Wi-Fi is horrible. So go to the first exit and get off and bet in a gas station parking lot.
Okay.
That's what I do.
How long does it take you to get there?
Hour and a half.
An hour and a half? Yeah.
Hour and a half.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right.
Not too bad. I did it preseason. Placed a bunch of futures. So
Rocky says Tulane will tune up Memphis. We'll see. Charles says too high of a spread, 7.5 to 8 is more reasonable. And Vegas. And look, I think the spread is 13.5 because Tulane, what they've been doing. And I think Vegas is just scared of setting a spread lower than 2 touchdowns. So this is kind of their compromise. I'm never a fan of the 13.5 or 14.5 the other way, but I am going to take Memphis here. And I also like the under. All right.
I like the under.
Also, real quick, I think, look, I've said this multiple times. John Summerall, I think, will stay one. And look, I want to get him on the show. We've talked about this. I intend, Corey says, event in Louisiana. Yeah.
Essentially, yeah.
We're going to do our best to get John Summerall on the show, but I think there's no question that while I don't think Tulane is necessarily the best team in Louisiana, I still think LSU would beat them fairly handily. We're not going to get into that in this particular show, but I do think John Summerall is clearly the college coach of the year in Louisiana. I don't think there's any doubt of that, in my opinion. I mean,
the guy at La Tech has turned it around.
Yeah, but not good enough. And ULM, actually, they had a really good start, and they've kind of stunk the past few weeks.
The only thing about John Summerall is he inherited a very good team. I know he's done well with going with Darian Mensah, and he's done well overall.
Well, that's
but
the key.
The only kind of pushback, I don't disagree. The only pushback that I would give you is that he inherited a very good team.
He inherited a good program. There's a difference. I don't know that the team necessarily. Now, he got Mekhi Hughes back. However, this offensive line kind of had to be reworked. And the fact that if you go back to August and early September, the fact that Darian Mensah was the third string quarterback and he saw something in this dude that said, this freshman is better than our other 2 quarterbacks that I inherited. To me, that took cojones. Okay.
No, it did. I agree.
And he went, and Darian Mensah has not only been a really good quarterback, but he's improved throughout the year. So to me, that alone makes him, if not the best coach in Louisiana, certainly one of them. Anyway, my point of that is, I know a lot of people saying Summerall's going to be a 1-year rental. I actually think it's going to be a 2-year rental. I think he wants to see this through because I think you're going to get most of these players back. Not all of them. You're going to get a lot of these players back. I do think Mensah will come back. And I think Mekhi Hughes, even though could go into the transfer portal and could play for probably any team he wants, I do think he will come back to Tulane. And I think the Green Wave are going to be in excellent shape next year with a realistic chance to be the non-Power 4 representative. I don't know what their schedule looks like next year. I don't have it in front of me. But I think they have an excellent chance to be in the playoffs next year. I really do.
Yeah, I can see it.
All right. LSU, Oklahoma. All right. We are not, by the way, we are not doing best bets this week. We're just skipping the Thursday show. Uncle Big Nick has sent in his picks. I'm going to acknowledge it. We're transparent in the show. We both had terrible weeks last week. I'm not trying to hide that fact at all. We were awful last week. We just were. I'm not covering it up, but I wanted to take today there were too many things I wanted to talk about today. And Larry is supposed to come on Friday, so we'll see how that goes. But if I had a best bets, and I don't put a lot of college bets in there, but I think LSU is going to wipe the floor with Oklahoma this week. Oklahoma at senior night, this past week and played their best game of the year. And I think that the emotions, they spent all their emotions to win this past week, playing as well as they could play. I think 6 points isn't near enough for a Tigers team that is desperate to win, not because they're going to get into a playoff, but Brian Kelly knows he don't want to hear any of this crap anymore. I think LSU is going to play even better than they played last week against Vanderbilt, and I thought they played pretty well last week.
Yeah. LSU's also the worst team in the SEC against the spread. So
yeah, but I think they went through that. They also went through a period, I think, where people probably overrated them a little bit, and now I think they're being underrated. I think this. If you would have gone back,
Oklahoma's being overrated.
I think it's both. Oklahoma's being overrated and LSU's being underrated. I think it's a combination. If you would go back in this game, where let's say in the middle of October, this spread would be closer to 2 touchdowns, in my opinion.
Probably.
So, yeah. And I think, and Charles post LSU by 14, as we said that, I think that's about what this is going to end up being. I actually think Brian Kelly wants to make a point here. If you can make a point against a team like Oklahoma, you do it. And I just like LSU in this spot.
I do too. We're going to figure out in this game the common opponent between LSU and Tulane as well.
No doubt about it. Okay. Also with Tulane, real quick, get your thoughts. Tulane, no matter what happens here, Tulane's going to play in the AAC championship game. I still think Tulane wins, but the fact that they're already in the AAC championship game, it's going to be at Yulman Stadium. That also plays a role in why I think they'll have trouble covering. They will play Army next week at home. Tulane
is it Shirley at home? I don't think it's Shirley at home. That I think if they lose, and if they lose and Army wins, they play at Army.
Okay, well, either way, I think that that certainly plays a fact. Anyway, the latest CFP rankings: Tulane 17th, Boise's 11th. I know there have been some smart asses on social media who just can say whatever they want and they'll ignore that they said it when they're wrong. But Tulane is not going. First of all, I think even if Tulane wins and Boise loses, I still think Boise is going to be the team that goes to the playoff. That's my opinion. We'll see. But certainly, if Boise wins out, Tulane has zero chance to make the playoff.
Well, here's the thing. The 4 teams who get a bye are the 4 highest rated conference champions. So there's been a lot of talk recently about whether or not, because the Big 12 is cannibalizing itself, whether or not Tulane could get in over a Big 12 champion. And my one takeaway from yesterday's rankings is that is not going to happen.
Yeah, no, I don't.
Because they positioned the Big 12 very nicely. Arizona State sitting at 16.
Correct.
Iowa State at 18. BYU at 19. Kansas State at 24. They are positioned very nicely to, when they win their games this weekend and inevitably win the Big 12 championship, jump Tulane, unless it's Arizona State, which they are already above Tulane.
And don't think that Tulane losing to Kansas State doesn't play a factor in all this, because it does.
Absolutely. And Oklahoma.
Right. So again, that was 8 weeks ago. I don't care. It's still I'm telling you that will play a factor in it. So I'm not trying to take anything away from what Tulane's done. I hope I'm wrong. I hope Tulane makes the college championship playoffs. I would love to see it because I do think if they got the right matchup, they could win against they can't beat an SMU or somebody like that. I don't think they can beat, but maybe an overrated team if they got the right seed. I just don't know. But Tulane's not gonna. They're just not gonna.
And here's the thing:
Boise to lose.
Even if Boise loses, I don't think they jump Boise.
I don't either.
Unless Boise loses the conference title, in which case they would. But if Boise loses to Oregon State this weekend, I don't think it matters because Boise's one loss on the season this year. Let's say it like it is. Neither of their losses are good.
Right. And
I know they lost to ranked Kansas State, but they lost at home and they controlled the game for a lot of that game.
And Dollar Bill says Tulane would need one of the 5 and 3 Big 12 teams to win the conference. So.
And I don't even know if that's necessarily enough.
Yeah, we'll see.
But Boise State's only loss this season so far is a 3-point loss at the number 1 team in the country.
You're right.
So as far as good losses go, that's the best loss in the country.
And look, as far as national, let's be honest. Well, I've said this 1,000 times. It's about money. Who do people want to see nationally? Yeah. I know you want to, like most people watching the show would rather see Tulane, but nationally, people would rather see Jeanty.
I'd rather see Ashton Jeanty. Yeah.
Gentry.
And not only that, I think Boise State, because of Ashton Genty, would pose more problems to some of those teams. I think Tulane's a better overall team.
Yeah.
But yeah.
Anyway. So with that being said, bowl projections I've seen some weird ones. I don't think CBS has Tulane in the Myrtle Beach Bowl playing Liberty on December 23rd. I think they'll be in a better bowl than that. This is the one I think is the closest. SI has Tulane playing Virginia Tech in the Fenway Bowl, which would be fun. That'd be on December 28th. I've also seen Tulane against Georgia Tech, which would also be fun because Tulane has already played one team that has that kind of offense that Georgia Tech runs, and we'll be playing another one in Army. So I actually think Tulane matches up well with the Georgia Tech. So that would be an interesting game as well. Either one of those, I would like to see it because it would kind of give you a gauge. We always talk about where would Tulane fit in the SEC? Well, where would they fit in the ACC? Because I think that's kind of the teams they're on par with, a Virginia Tech or a Georgia Tech. I would like to see that. Either one of those matchups to me would be informative.
Yeah, I agree. And I'm just looking at, I mentioned the other week, Brett McMurphy's my go-to for bowl projections. And he's got Tulane in the Fenway Bowl against Virginia Tech. So
I think that would be a lot of fun.
He's also got LSU in the Music City Bowl against Wisconsin.
Yeah. All right. Well, let's move on here. We're going to want to talk real quick. And I'm going to end this show today with Saints. We're running long, as I always do. But we're having fun here this morning, and you're sticking with me, so we'll stick with you. The Turkey Day slate, just get your thoughts. Is there any game of these three that sticks out? Of course, I'm looking forward to Dolphins and Packers because the Dolphins honestly are playing so much better football right now. The Packers played as well as they can play. I get that they played a 49ers team that was missing Brock Purdy last week, but they still rolled over them. Josh Jacobs was unstoppable last week against supposedly a good San Francisco defense. So is he going to be able to do that against the Dolphins? I don't see why not. But then again, the Dolphins are having some fun. They're able to play offense again. Tua's in there. Jonnu Smith looks like some, top 3 tight end all of a sudden, which is great for my fantasy team. But
me too.
Your thoughts? Is that your favorite game? Is that the one you're looking forward to tomorrow the most?
That should be my favorite game.
Don't say Giants Cowboys.
I'm kind of looking forward to the absolute crap fest that is Giants Cowboys.
Oh God, that's when the tryptophan kicks in.
I can't be. Hold on, I can't be the only one that was wishing the Cowboys picked up Daniel Jones to beat the Giants in this game, right?
That would have been funny, but
I would have absolutely loved that.
They wouldn't start him. I mean, who else was going to pick him up?
The Vikings picked him up.
Oh, they did pick him up.
The Vikings picked him up.
I saw they were talking about picking him up. I didn't see that they actually
did. The Vikings picked him up.
Well, good, because they actually have a chance now because Sam Darnold's turning back into the pumpkin that is Sam Darnold. That's all.
Well, yeah, no, but in terms of actual watchability, I think that the night game, the Dolphins Packers game, is going to be a lot of fun. The Dolphins, surprisingly, everyone wants to talk about their offense. Their defense is top 10 in pass and rush defense in the league, so they've been pretty good this year.
All right, Rocky. Here's the thing: Dallas will lose to the Giants, and you'll laugh your ass off.
Dallas has won the last 7 straight up.
But who cares? Both teams stink. Why would you I mean, who cares? I mean, I really don't care. You're just rooting against the Cowgirls because you're rooting against the Who cares? I mean, does anybody like the Giants? I mean, I don't like the Giants either. Can they both lose? I mean, I don't even know if I'll bet on that game. I mean, usually
I'm hoping the Giants lose because preseason one of my futures that I went and placed at the gas station was the Giants to have the worst record in the NFL this year. Okay. So,
well, we'll see if that happens.
Fingers crossed.
Bears Lions open up again. If you want to be part of the sweepstakes, send me your prediction on Lions Bears. You got to give me a final score. You got to send it to jderrytheadvocate.com, or you can send it to my X address, which is at Jim Derry Jr. You got to do it by tomorrow at 11:30 a.m. It doesn't matter whether you're watching live, and you got to be a subscriber to the Dattitude podcast. Lions, look, I don't know what to think here. I think there's no way I can pick against the Lions to win the game. But that being said, I just think that's too many points. And I get what the Lions have done to some bad teams, but I'm still not convinced. The Bears are just bearing. I don't think they're a bad team. They're poorly coached, and they're a mess, and they need to make changes again. But I think they can keep this kind of close within reason.
I think they can, but I'm not touching a single one of these games.
I am either.
Other than maybe the Packers. If I was forced to play any of them, I'd take the Packers just because Miami has a history of playing poorly in the cold.
Well, that's true.
That's
Is
the
it gonna be
only
cold?
reason. Yeah, apparently it's going to be snowy conditions. Last I checked, at least, theuld be different. There's also some value with Dallas.
31.
They've won 7.
Sorry, it is going to be
you're good.
By game time. 28 degrees and snow.
Yep.
Oh my goodness! Yeah, give me the Packers.
Yeah.
My goodness! Wow.
That's the ideal Lambeau experience.
And guess what? Saints go there in a few weeks.
Yep.
Right. So of your entire 3 games, not the one you're wanting to watch most, what is your best pick of the 3? And I'll give you my best pick of the 3.
The Packers with the points, probably, or the Cowboys money line. I know there's not much value in 192 money line, but the Cowboys have won the last 7 straight up.
I actually like the over in the Cowboys game. That is way too low. I don't understand why it's 37. I get both offenses have not been good. That is not my play though. My top play is a total. I like the Packers under. You just told me about the snow, and I'm an automatic under player just because these two offenses can move the football. I don't know that the Dolphins are going to be able to run against the Packers. I know how good they potentially have been. I like the Packers in this game, but I don't know that I like the 3.5. But I do like the under in snowy conditions. So
we're going to get the answer to an age-old question: what happens when an unstoppable force meets an immovable object? The Packers are tied for the lead in the NFL for plays over 40+ yards. The Dolphins have the second fewest plays of that nature allowed, I believe.
Oh,
so
and their defense stinks, though.
No, their Dolphins defense is good.
It is. What are they ranked?
8th, I believe they're 8th in rush and pass defense. Something around. They're top 10 in both metrics, I believe.
Okay, well, let's see. As I do this live, people like when I do this live. Let's see. They are.
They're surprisingly good.
They're 7th. Okay.
Yeah,
you're right. I was wrong.
Yeah, I did the research yesterday. I was surprised.
They're 9th against the run. I haven't had time.
I knew it was
yet. I've
something
been too busy.
Well, I was doing. Yesterday was the day where I kind of knocked everything out before Thanksgiving, all my stuff for the week, and had a Jordan Love player props piece to do. So,
all right. Well, we will see you on Friday. Have a great Turkey Day, my friend.
Thank you. You too. Can I just give my play of the week, my sicko play of the week? Because
please.
You complimented the cojones that it took to take the Browns money line last week. I'll give you.
Pace gave you.
I'll give you another absolute sicko play.
Okay.
In the Egg Bowl, Mississippi State plus 26.5.
How about Mississippi State money line? That would be so much fun.
Absolutely not. But I will take them plus 26.5. I think this is a horrible spot. I think it's a horrible spot for Ole Miss after the heartbreak. Ole Miss hasn't won a game by more than 27 points in the Egg Bowl since 2008. There have only been 5 games since 2000 with a bigger spread than this. And Mississippi State is a surprisingly good team against the spread, 3-1 on the road. And it's a rivalry game. I think all signs point to, I know the talent gap is huge. I think all signs point toward Mississippi State.
If you win that one, because I'm not betting either way. If you win that one, I'm going to give you a one of these. All right. So that's
26.5 points is absurd.
All right. I don't disagree with that point.
with two power conference schools.
One thing Kiffin's good at is beating the ever-loving crap out of crappy teams.
Yeah, but can he get his team up and motivated for this game after?
Well, he should have been doing all that talking. We don't want to play in the SEC championship game. Well, guess what? You don't have to worry about that anymore.
Jackson Dart made sure of that.
What a bum. Anyway, let's move on. I'm talking about Lane Kiffin, not Jack. I'm talking about Jackson Dart. Wow. That's a whole different story. We'll see you Friday. And don't eat too much turkey.
I won't.
All right. Gabe Henderson, everybody. All right. Before we get, I told you we would wrap it up with some more Saints talk. We have used up a ton of time this morning. We thank you all for being a part of this long, elongated Dattitude podcast. I had so much to say. I didn't talk to you in 6 days. I've been talking all over the place, and I've been working. I was going to take, all the time was going to take off. I ended up working a lot of the time was going to take off. It just so happened. It is what it is. But look, when you love what you do, it's not really work, right? So I had Yesterday I did 2 shows, had to drive across the causeway for one of them, came back, did another one, and then I had to go do play-by-play for a basketball game, and I got another basketball game this afternoon. Friday, we got a show here, and I got a football game Friday night. It is crazy time around here, but that's the way we like it. That is the way we like it. All right, we're going to wrap it up with the Saints, but before we do that, we told you earlier we will let you know more about how Evangeline Securities can help you figure out what your family-run or privately held business might be worth and whether it's time to sell. How do they do it? Well, after their complimentary valuation of your company, if you decide to proceed, that is completely up to you. Native New Orleanians, Nick Braden, Ron Hemelt, and the folks at Evangeline will be by your side the entire way to help guide you through the process. They'll begin an extensive auction process among established private equity funds from around the world. And they will maximize the return process for the founder and his or her family. Evangeline Securities is the top producer on their platform. There are very few companies like them in this area, and none with their dedication and success. The only negative is I promise you they won't eat as much turkey tomorrow as I will. Neither one of those guys. They're more worried about what's going on in the real world. I mean, they want to help you. They are fully licensed and ready to serve you. So get in touch with Nick and Ron about what is really important, not the Saints, not the free Saints tickets, not the LSU game this weekend. It's not turkey. It's not cranberry sauce. It's not stuffing. None of that stuff. What is the most important thing? What's really important? The rest of your life. You can find them at www.evangelinesecurities.com. All right. Told you we would wrap it up with the Saints this morning, or it's afternoon now. Elijah Gray says, I'll tell you what, if the Commanders keep folding, there's a chance a wild card spot will be up for grabs. No. I'm not saying you're not wrong about the wild card spot be up for grabs. I think you're insinuating the Saints would be in the – there are 3 games left. I mean, they are 3 games ahead of the Saints right now. That's where the last wild card spot right now is 7-4. Okay? Saints 4-7. There is almost no question in my mind that the Saints, because of tie-breaking potentials and all this thing, the Saints would have to win out. Okay? The Saints win out. I still don't think that clinches them. They probably would be in the playoffs if they won out. Again, I know you don't like when I'm realistic. You're saying this guy is mean. He's a Derry Downer. How can you be a fan? I'm not a fan. I'm telling you the way that it is, or the way that I think that it is. Okay? Here's the deal. And look, I just lost like 5 people. 5 people don't want to hear 10 people. They want to hear reality. Okay? If you're new to this show, I want as many people as I can get to watch this show. But I'm just going to tell you the way that it is. Here's the warning. We deal in reality on the show. This is not a fanboy podcast. If the Saints stink, we're going to tell you they stink. If they're good, we're going to tell you they're good. They got a chance to do something great, we're going to tell you they got a chance to do something great. If they don't have a chance to do something great, we're going to tell you they don't have a chance to do something great. And in reality, this team needs to win to run the table to have probably a 60%. They run the table to probably get a 60 to 70% chance to make the playoffs. If they go 9-8, which is only losing one more game, even my Shaw math tells me that. If they go 9-8, then they have probably about a 10 to 15% chance to make the playoffs at 9-8. So realistically, they got to run the table. The chances of running the table, mathematically, it's not 0.0, but realistically, it's 0.0, not 0.5, not 0.3, but 0.0. They are not going to run the table. I don't even think they're going to win this week. They might. Not giving any spoiler alerts. I haven't done enough research yet. Maybe I'll pick the Saints. Maybe I won't. But even if they win this week, the Saints, how many times do we have to say this? What are the Saints worst at? They're worst at mobile quarterbacks. They're not going to beat the Commanders. Okay? Even worse than that, do you think the Saints have a realistic chance to go to Green Bay and win? Come on, man. Randall, we're glad you're here. Guess what? We got some news for you, Randall. I know you weren't here earlier. So before I finish the last couple minutes of the show talking about the Saints and this weekend's game, this Sunday's game, let me give you one last reminder. If you want to be part of the Saints-Rams sweepstakes tickets, if you want, now, first of all, do not enter this thing if you're not going to go to the game. You got to be 100% sure you're going to go to the game because you're cheating someone else, okay? So the way that works, if you win, I'm going to have John Pace email you his tickets, okay? John Pace has been kind enough to give the Dattitude family his tickets for Saints-Rams this week. And the person who wins the tickets, they'll get them courtesy of him. You've got to do three things. You have got to be the closest in your prediction of Lions-Bears. You got to predict the final score for Lions-Bears, not just how much they're going to win by or whatever. I need a final score, Lions-Bears. You have to either email it to me at jderry@theadvocate.com, DERRY, jderry@theadvocate.com, or you can send it to me in a DM on Twitter or X at Jim Derry Jr. And you got to do it by 11:30 a.m. tomorrow. Bears, Lions, final score. Whoever's closest wins the tickets. And again, you gotta, if you win these tickets and you don't go to this game, be upset. So Randall, you can join in. I know you missed before, so you can get on there. Yeah, David, I'm preaching on. I mean, it's kind of what I do. I'm just telling it like I think it is. Rob, happy Thanksgiving. Absolutely. Everybody stay safe out there. Rainy Cajun, Saints on the frozen tundra in Green Bay. No way, man. Charles, happy Thanksgiving, Dattitude family. Jim and Gabe, if you got a comment to get in, now's your chance, your final chance to get in your comments, because I'm going to close with this. Again, I'm not going to give my final prediction today, but I will say this about this game. When I started putting these numbers together this morning, these numbers are more favorable towards the Saints than I thought. The Saints' offensive numbers since Carr don't go anywhere yet. I know you hate when I bring up Derek Carr and talk good about him, but have you noticed how much these offensive numbers have gone up since Derek Carr's come back? Like immensely. Go back and find a show. In fact, you know what? I like doing things on live TV. I'm going to call up. I'm not going to put it on the screen here, but I'm going to go back and find a past show from October. Let's say, I don't know, October the 30th, I know was a Wednesday. Let's see what the Saints numbers were on October the 30th. The Saints were 21st in rushing offense. They're 9th now. They were 19th in passing offense. They're 17th now. They were 17th in points scored. They're 11th now. They were 21st in offense on October the 30th. They're now 11th. They moved up 10 spots. So say what you want. Say what you will. The Saints are much better offensively with Derek Carr. So when you put these numbers against the Rams defense, and they're 28th against the run, could it be a big Alvin Kamara day? It certainly could be. It certainly could be a big Alvin Kamara day. Here's the problem, though. Look at the Rams passing offense against the Saints passing defense. Saints gave up, 375 yards to Jameis Winston? Yeah, that ain't good. This is the highest over-under total we've seen on the Saints all year, 49. It could be a shootout. It could be one of the more fun games of the year. You remember last year when the Saints went to the Rams? Rams got up big. The Saints had to claw their way back, and they got close, but it was a shootout. Rando's got a point. It's hard to bet Saints games since DA got fired. You just don't know how they play. It's true. I mean, we know that they won 2 in a row. Charles says a big Taysom Hill day. I kind of don't think so. This doesn't scream. I know that rushing. This doesn't scream Taysom Hill to me. And the reason why is because you don't see often Taysom Hill have 2 big games in a row. And I know they've had a bye week, so that makes it more possible. I'm just not betting on it. I think it's more of a Kamara day. I think Kamara has a really good day. If you're playing DFS, I don't think you can go wrong taking Kamara. All right. I expect to see all you regulars in the sweepstakes for the tickets if you're going to go to the game. If you don't live around here and you're not going to go to the game, don't enter. Or you can enter and say, don't give me the tickets. You just want to make a prediction. You can do that. We'll read them aloud. All right. I think Larry is coming on Friday. I've got to confirm with him. I texted him before the show. He asked me what time, and I haven't been able to get back to him. So I think Larry's coming on Friday. We will see. Regardless, we'll have a show. We will probably have a guest, whether it's Larry or somebody else. Gabe's going to be with us for sure. But that is going to wrap it up for this Wednesday. Only one more show in November. That is one more November show. Walt Crawford. Happy Turkey Day, everyone. Absolutely. Randall says the Rams have a good front. They do. That's why I think it's going to be a big Kamara day. For sure. Randy Cajun said he would love to go. One time to NOLA per year is all he can afford at the moment. I understand that because, Rainey, I believe you live in Seattle, and I couldn't afford going to Seattle once. I would love to go. Seattle's on my bucket list. I would love to go to Seattle, by the way, especially in the summer. That's when I want to go to Seattle. All right, we are back to after tomorrow. Tomorrow's our last day off. I mean, it's Thanksgiving. We're not going to do a show on Thanksgiving. Tomorrow's our last day off. We get back to our regular schedule after tomorrow. Every weekday except Tuesday, live at 11 a.m. Central Time, always available after the fact. If you're still watching on YouTube and you haven't done so, give us a like. Nope. No, please give us a like. You don't know what this. If you're watching, I'm doing the thumbs up and can't get it to do it. Never know. Anyway, give us a like. Subscribe to our Dattitude YouTube page. Again, that's the only way you can win the contest. Even if you don't care about the contest, we still would love you to subscribe to our Dattitude YouTube page. You'll receive notifications when we go on the air live. You can also find us wherever you get your podcast, including Apple, Spotify, and many more. And always find a replay of the show on NOLA.com/sports. Don't eat too much turkey. Well, I don't know. I say that, you know what? If you're eating early, go ahead and eat a ton of turkey because who gives a damn about the Giants-Cowboys game except Gabe Henderson? And maybe Tommy Cutlet's mom and dad. You know what I'm talking about. They'll probably have too much to eat them by then. Who knows? Anyway, if you have too much to eat, don't do it at night because you might oversleep. That tryptophan, it can last. You'll oversleep for Friday's show because we want to be able to see you on Friday's show for sure. All right. Randall says also enjoy the cold weather we have coming. It's going to feel like winter. We will see you on Friday. Have a great weekend. Give a kiss to Aunt Mabel for me, will you? We'll see you on Friday. Take it easy, my friends.
If you're looking for the latest scoop and in-depth interviews on the Saints, the NFL, the Pelicans, LSU, along with the best bets of the week, then lucky you. Along with high-powered, in-the-know guests who cover our teams, Jim Derry brings plenty of Dattitude. And he'll always tell you the way it is, or at least the way he thinks it is.